Hello. In today's video, I will talk about the Hanged Man, who is card 12 of the Major Arcana. So, how I understand this card is I think of it as related to the Buddha family karma, which is about all accomplishing action and broad sight. It's related to the wind, the color is green. And I think about this card as related to this energy because it's talking about looking at things from a different perspective, getting a vantage point so that you can see in a bigger, broader way, in a different way from the way you've been looking at things. In his upright position, he represents looking at things from a different perspective. He represents action with wisdom. And so it's like a well thought out action, not just moving, not just acting, but thinking and considering things deeply and from a wide perspective in order to gain the knowledge and understanding to execute whatever the plan is. In his upright position, he's often representing this expanded kind of view, as well as like slowing down a roll so that you're not just moving, but you're actually really sitting with things and considering. In his reversed position, this card represents moving without thought, moving too quickly. It represents someone being on a roll and not considering the things or people around them, but just moving. I often think about this energy related to road rage, where you're on the highway and you're like speeding through red lights, or you're not really paying attention to the fact that there are other people on the road and they too may have places to go, but you're like cutting people off and moving kind of in that way. And so if not slowed down, it could cause quite a bit of damage. I often think about this card and its neurosis connected to like a really strong wind that could be very destructive, and that just moves without regard for what it's blowing over. And so in its neurotic state or reversed state, this card is kind of talking about that kind of action where you're just blowing through things and not considering who or what else is going on around you. So it's like a warning to slow down, to consider things, to look at things from a different perspective, to stop a roll, to like not continue moving in this kind of hasty way. This card went through three kind of developmental stages. The first, of course, was the kind of quick drawing on paper, where it was a stick figure hanging from a not very well developed tree, with words just to remind me of what the card meant. Then it went to electronic form, where it became a full like drawing of a person, and he was hanging from a tree that was pretty well developed and the coins were on the ground. And then when I had to shift it from that version into the card version, I had to let go of that entire drawing. I tried to carry it over and it just wouldn't work. When I create a card, or when I create any kind of drawing in the app that I was using, there's no way to go back and change the size of the paper, and so I was trying to scale the paper to the card size that I was printing on. And so when it moved from the the original electronic form into card form, I was trying to transfer the stuff over, but there was no real clean way to do it. I had to copy and paste. Every time I did that, it would distort the image. It was coming out blurry and coming out like just not so good. So I had to like scratch it and start afresh. And it's one of the few cards that I didn't resist too much when I had to do that. You know, it's like you work hours and hours, sometimes days on these cards, and you have to shift it, and it's like you lose all of the work that you did, and sometimes it can be quite heartbreaking. And for some reason, this wasn't one of those cards that I had that feeling with. It was more like, oh, I can let go of this. Oh, I can create a new card. No problem. It was like, okay, you know, I have the idea. I kind of know what I'm doing. And it sort of came out of that kind of energy. I think that that's significant to this card because we're talking about like this kind of different vantage point, thinking about things differently, looking at things differently. And I was able to let go of how I was looking at the card, how I was thinking of the image, and allowing it to develop into what you see today. And so I think that was a part of the process of understanding this energy, how it manifests with this card, especially like in its wisdom state, like feeling the wisdom of that, feeling the wisdom of being able to just like pause. Okay, this is not working what I'm doing. Let me let go of it and look at this differently. Let me create another image. And so it allowed this space for something new to emerge. It allowed the space for this card to emerge as it needed to emerge. Once the card was designed as it is now, there weren't many changes. I think the only change was that when I had to scale it for the printer, some of the tree was cut out, some of the, you know, like the trunk of the tree was cut out. And that's the biggest thing that was like shifted since the card kind of emerged. And so it was a lesson in learning to let go of this thing that I was holding on to so that I could see it in a bigger, wider way. And that by doing that, it kind of opened it up to express itself as it needed to. And also, in a way, kind of set me free because I wasn't going back. It's not one of the cards I kept going back to like tweak and perfect and like to fix or any of that kind of stuff. And so it created this space for me to move on to other things. And so I think that, I guess a lesson for me when I get into a rigid place or I'm like holding on to some idea of something, sometimes when we relax, sometimes when we surrender, it opens up the space for goodness to emerge. And I think that was kind of my experience going through this card, you know, like through the manifestation of this card was like learning or remembering that, right? Touching in with that energy of like, okay, let me surrender. Let me let this idea go and look at this in a bigger, kind of wider way. What else? I think that's all I want to say about this card for now, but I would like to thank you for joining me. In the next video, I am going to talk about the Death card, so I look forward to talking to you about that one.